AWS services, DynamoDB, Lambda, and API Gateway. I'll walk you through my results here, and I'll paste the link to the tutorial in the description below. So the first thing we have here is a DynamoDB table. Now DynamoDB tables are NoSQL tables, and I've just added one entry here. I created two columns, one named index and one named name, and given the values A, B, C, and 1, 2, 3 for this first and only entry. Then the second piece to this tutorial is a Lambda function. Now, a Lambda function is basically just some code that runs on an AWS server. I don't have to set up the server. I don't have to worry about scaling. None of that. AWS handles all of it. And I'll just kind of go through the walk through the code here. Now, this code is basically going to return. It's going to get all the items from this table. And I'll just point out some important pieces here. So this Lambda handler function, that's the kind of the main function of Lambda. It's what's going to get called whenever the function executes. It's what's going to call first. And this event is kind of the main parameter that we're going to be dealing with. So if you'll go down here, you'll notice this variable operation equals event HTTP method. And if you'll remember, event is the parameter to our Lambda function here. And if we go up here to here to actions and then configure test event, this is the event that we're kind of testing with. It's just kind of a simple JSON object here, and one of the parameters is HTTP method, which in this case we set to get. So operation is get. So then that means that this code is going to get executed. So payload is going to be kind of the parameter to get is going to be whatever's in this query string parameters. So if we go here to our test event, we can see there's a parameter called query string parameters with the attribute table name, and we want the value my table. So the DynamoDB table that I showed you a moment ago, notice it's called my table. So that's the table that we're going to be dealing with. And once we have, so we've got the function or the method get and the parameter my table, and we're going to send that to, we've got operations of operations. Remember, that's get. So it's going to go up here and it's going to execute this. So it's going to scan our DynamoDB table and it's going to show us, it's going to get whatever is in that table. It's going to return all the objects. So if we click test, it's going to send the configuration. And we get this massive JSON object here, but if we parse it a little bit, we can see index with the value of ABC and name has a value of 1, 2, 3, which is exactly what we have here. So it worked. And it gives you some other information here, like count, which is just 1 in this case. Now, if we added more items to the table, that count would be higher and it would display all of the items right here. Okay, so we can test this function within the Lambda console, but say we want to call this function if we need to get the values of our DynamoDB table from an external source. Well, the tutorial also walks you through how to create an API in API Gateway. API Gateway is basically just a tool that allows you to create APIs pretty easily. So we created an API called MySimple microservice, or sorry, Lambda microservice. And what this does, if you go in here to integration request, so basically whenever this API is invoked, it calls this function, MySimple microservice, which was the name of our Lambda here. And notice that the method here is any, so that's kind of a catch-all for get, post, put, delete, etc. So basically any method that we call on this API, it's gonna enter this flow. And if we go to test, we can choose a get method, since that's really all we have set up in our Lambda function to handle right now. And then if we make the query string, let's see, what was the parameter we need here? Table name? Yeah, we can just say table name equals my table. And we don't need any headers. So if we click test, then voila, it worked. Items, the attribute index has a value of ABC, the attribute name has a value of 1, 2, 3. Count of 1, so basically the same information as before, but now we can call this Lambda function externally, which will be really useful for setting up various Internet of Things devices and many other applications. So overall, I think this tutorial was a great success. I learned 3 basic services that should be very useful for other projects.